And as long as you agree with her, she's fine. And it's the same thing with y'all.
Hello, everybody. How are you guys doing? How are you guys feeling? I don't know, guys. I just kind of miss you all. Okay. I miss you guys. I've been thinking about you guys, and I hope you guys are doing okay. All right. I hope everything is great. So let's get into this video. I just kind of want to talk about why I think Miss Evelyn Braxton is the real villain of the Braxton Family Values, okay? Not the show. Well, yeah, the show, but her daughters, right? I think she's the real villain, okay? Let me just say this up front. I know these are real people with real lives, and reality TV is edited, so I get that. But after watching multiple seasons of Braxton Family Values and rewatching like key moments and even checking interviews, and remember that Iyanla Fix My Life special? Yeah, I have to be honest. Miss Evelyn Braxton is the true villain of the show, okay? Not in the she's evil way, but in she is the root of the dysfunction. Yeah, the dysfunction. Okay, just in that kind of way. Let me break it down. Okay, I'm gonna break down why. The first thing, she puts her kids in the middle of her marital mess. Okay, that's how I feel. I'm sorry, that's just how I feel. Now, Miss Evelyn had every right to be hurt by Mr. Braxton cheating and the end of their relationship, but what she didn't have the right to do was emotionally drag her daughters into that pain.
It's about time he acknowledged the feelings that he had for this woman while we were married, and especially in front of the kids.
And she absolutely did, from early seasons. Like, we see her venting to the girls, saying things like, he had another family, or I stayed with him for y'all. Like, that's not healing, that's guilt tripping,
You know what? Had you been home long enough to help me to raise them, it wouldn't be such a problem.
And there's this episode where the sisters try to include their dad in Trina's wedding events, and Evelyn, the mom, instantly gets upset, not because she's like upset. I would say not because he's a bad father, right? She's not upset because he's a bad father, but because she's still mad at him as a husband. And it's like their relationship with their dad could only exist on her terms, and it just seemed a little bit difficult,
How dare he try to tell me how to raise my kids after he have abandoned us.
Tamar never gets held accountable. That's another reason as to why I feel like the mom, is a bit of the problem, right? Now, Tamar never gets held accountable because she's the baby. Let's keep it real. Tamar has said and done some wild things on her sisters, like to her sisters. Like, she's done a lot.
He's not a babysitter. You're not going to degrade him in that way. He's not a babysitter. He's a father. It's a difference. Would you please tell Tamar? It's a freaking difference. It's difference between a babysitter and a father. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to let you do that. I swear to God, I'm not. She ain't ready. He's a good father. I never took that away from him. A good father. But as a husband, he's not a husband. A good father. He's not. He was Tamar. Come on. I'm not going to let you do that in tapers. I swear to God, I'm not. Not today.
Towanda, are you still in love?
No, I'm not. Right now, I am really regretting that I bought Tamar. She is fighting me. She's not supporting me. Andre is a great father. He's just not a good husband. I just need support. And good, bad, or indifferent, regardless of if you agree or not, all I need is the support. Okay, but support is not BS. But support is not attacking me. I'm not attacking you. I'm telling him, your lawyer, the truth from the outside looking in from what it is. You live with your sister. He driving your car that I bought you. He doing all that stuff for you. I did that for you, not for him. That's what he's trying to say. I'm talking about him. We're talking about him. Can't get mad about that. You don't help people out for them. You help people out for your loved ones. I'm saying it's not cool.
Tamar.
What?
But every time she's called out, here comes Miss Evelyn with the that's just Tamar defense. And it's always, she's sensitive, or y'all are, ganging up on her, implying that. But if Towanda and Trina showed even half of that attitude, Miss Evelyn would just, she would shut it down.
I think the family have let Tamar get away with too much for a long time. Tony would cover things up and would not let us know what Tamar was doing or what Tamar did, because she didn't want Tamar to get in trouble. So now that we all have created the monster. You know, now they want me to do something about it.
Like, she would just say it's disrespectful. So I don't know why she doesn't hold her daughter accountable. You know, her being the baby, she's not the baby in everybody's family or the baby in everybody's life. You got to help her grow up. And we saw that play out early on in, you know, the Iyanla Fix My Life episode. You know, Miss Evelyn got defensive anytime Tamar was confronted. You know, she wouldn't sit in that discomfort. Instead of holding Tamar accountable like everyone else, she coddled her, and that enabled a lot of the division in the family, you know, I would say.
Do you want to do this? Do you? Because I don't appreciate you keep throwing out these names. I disrespect. I've been called. So who gets to correct her? Wait a minute! Calm down. Whether you agree with Iyanla or not, you cannot disrespect her. Tell her what you feel, but it's a way to do it, baby. So I'm not disrespecting? No, respect your elders. Let's go with the word. You want to go with the word? I got this, Trina. I didn't say anything, Mommy. I'm sorry. We will. I'm telling you right darn now. You say one more word, and I got you. We will respect her. Do I make myself clear?
I feel like if she would have held, you know, Tamar accountable earlier, you know, that attitude that everybody sees that they don't like, that would have been dealt with earlier, and she wouldn't be the way in which she is now, you know? She treated Tracy like the disappointment, okay? That's another reason I say she's the problem. And this is just my opinion, you know, out of all the Braxton sisters, Tracy got the worst of it, okay? Not just because she got pregnant young and, you know, missed the original record deal, you know, that part was already, you know, painful. I get that. But what made it worse was how Miss Evelyn treated Tracy like, you know, a permanent outsider, in my humble opinion, you know. She constantly reminded her that she made a choice, you know. Like, she reminded her that she made a choice as if being a mother meant she could never be part of the family, you know, dreams again, you know.
It hurt your feelings. What she said, that's all I'm saying. This negative attitude, it's got to stop. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't make sense. It really don't. Tracy, I think you better stop. Tracy, what you want to do? Tracy, what I'm going to do is go. I prefer that. Yes, you are so funny. You should leave, Tracy. Yes, I think you should. Yes. I know. You have a lovely day. Tracy, just get lost. She told me mind her business, and that's what I did. I am my mother's child.
But here's what I believe the real issue was. Tracy was closest to their father, you know. She had a relationship with him that was like just the issue, if you ask me, you know. Their relationship was deeper, more giving, and Miss Evelyn couldn't handle that, you know. On top of that, Tracy even looked and acted more like her dad, you know. And when a mother is still holding trauma and resentment from a broken marriage, it's hard for her to separate the child from the person who hurt her, you know? So instead of dealing with, you know, those difficult emotions, Evelyn took it out on Tracy. And maybe not intentionally, but consistently.
I feel like Tracy turned around and got bucked. And that's when it got into the max. Regardless, let me just spin like this. Say, what's up? Don't text me. Don't Tracy. Don't text me. Because you got the cat. Don't text me.
She dismissed her ideas, shut her down, you know, like just during arguments or disagreements, you know. She treated her like the angry one whenever she pushed back. And when Tracy finally, you know, started standing up for herself later, you know, in the series, it was too late. You know, the damage was already done, and Tracy knew it. You know, you could just see that in her body language, in her tears and her silences, you know. She wasn't just the wannabe. She was, you know, the scapegoat, just emotionally burdened with just being the daughter who, you know, reminded her mom of the man who broke her heart.
He was my best friend, okay? He was my first love.
And her mother never got over it. Tracy wasn't able to have a close relationship with her mother because of it, you know? And another reason is she forces unity but never deals with the root issues, okay?
You can't sit down and have a decent darn conversation without all of this foolishness.
Miss Evelyn is always pushing for sisters to just get along and stick together, but that's surface level, you know. When Tony said that she didn't like her family in season 6, Evelyn immediately got mad instead of asking why she felt that way. That moment could have been like the start of some real healing, but instead Evelyn, treated it like Tony says, something that was just out of this world or just crazy, but it made sense. Tracy didn't like how her mom was treating her. Tony didn't like the entire family because they basically made it seem as though like she had to give up her dream. She had to like just this musician that she loved to be, she was forced or made to feel like she had to take her sisters along for the ride. It was a lot for Tony. It's like she wants the image, Miss Evelyn, she wants the image of a close family more than she wants to actually help them do the work to become one.
It's time for y'all to stop letting your mother run your life.
And another reason I'll say is she shames but doesn't reflect. One thing about Miss Evelyn, she knows how to throw shade in a classy tone, okay?
That you lay it low and spread it wide. You don't care who it is.
Whether it's saying you weren't raised like that or giving that disappointment like church mom look, she knows how to guilt trip her daughters without, taking responsibility for her own actions and how her actions may have contributed to the dysfunction. Even when like professionals like Iyanla try to hold her accountable, she gets defensive and shuts down or just simply doesn't want to address the issue, So if the matriarch can't own her role or how her can't even stand up on how her daughters act or, different things, and she can't just admit when things are not going right, how are the girls supposed to? How are her daughters supposed to? So my final thoughts, right?
After my parents got divorced, my father married a woman named Towanda just 30 days after my parents' divorce. 30 days.
I know a lot of people focus on Tamar as the problem, and yes, she's had her moments, but when you take a step back and look at the pattern, it really goes back to how Miss Evelyn raised them, treated them, managed conflict. She plays favorites, divides instead of, uniting. She just divides the girls and shames instead of support. And I would say in a lot of Black families, and households, things like this happen, okay? A mom is like the head. So if you don't get it together, what they say, fish stink at the head. You're at the head. You have to kind of set the tone for how things are going to be, It's like in a lot of Black families, this is the problem. Using the whole keep the family together as a shield to avoid real accountability, and I think Miss Evelyn is the perfect example of that. I say this with love and honesty. Miss Evelyn Braxton is the real villain of the Braxton Family Values. Not because, she's a bad person, but because she never treated the girls equally, and she never created a safe space, fair emotional space for her daughters to truly heal and thrive. We were watching Iyanla and we ended up finding out that Tamar, was raped by a family member. This was absolutely insane. So it's okay, so this persona or different things that express Tamar, this is coming from someplace, just different things of that nature. I feel like her mom should have handled things better, dealt with things better, addressed things better, supported the girls better. She is the true villain of the Braxton Family Values. She's the true villain of the Braxton family, and I think we got to get into that. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I love you guys so much, and bye.
It will be 2 sad days. The day they bury him and my trial.